Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Hong Kong and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a few times before. Now I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last year or two, a good few different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery I would say that they are pretty solid all round, although probably my favourite beers I've had from them has been their Pilsner and their IPAs, the West Coast IPAs I would say are particularly good as well. Now the beer that we're going to have a look at today is the second of a three-part series that I'm reviewing for you over the next couple of videos. The last one I was really quite impressed with, a Saison, and this one is a little bit different actually, but I have heard very good things about this particular beer. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to stick to the Kowloon side of Hong Kong. We're going to go round to an area called Sam Po Kong, very close to Diamond Hill, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Dead Man Brewery. So this particular beer is called Frank on Sled. It comes in at 6.5% ABV. This one is a Bretted Sour, or to be specific, as Dead Man are describing it, a Bretted Honey Orange Sour. So yeah, this one should be pretty interesting. From what I understand, this one won a silver medal in one of the Asia Beer Cups very recently. So it's a very highly rated beer, this one, and like I said, I have heard very good things about it. So quite curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. The last one, Scout's Honour the Saison, I really enjoyed that as well, so hopefully this one carries on in the same vein, but I have had people tell me that this one is especially good. So yeah, let's crack on then and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Dead Man Brewery before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to quite regularly, of course, because I am based here in Hong Kong now, and do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Dead Man Brewery once again then before we taste the beer. So, Dead Man Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in an area called Sam Po Kong in Kowloon here in Hong Kong, and the brewery was founded back in 2018 by Jerry Ko and Sherman Chan. Both of these guys are Hong Kongers, and they were old school friends that used to play basketball together very often. So Sherman had a sports bar in Kwun Tong called The Stadium, and he discovered craft beer through the salespeople that were supplying him, and he was basically looking for some more interesting beers to serve in the bar, and he started to look more down the craft beer route, and that's what took him down the rabbit hole. So Jerry apparently was exposed to craft beer while in Canada studying veterinary science, and this prompted him to start homebrewing, which he apparently used to do on his rooftop. But he then bumped into an old friend on a tour of Lion Brewery who was interested in starting his own brewery, and things just kind of went from there. They decided to pair up, and it just so happened that that friend was his old school friend, Sherman. But the brewery is apparently named Dead Man because everyone in Hong Kong is, as they put it, a dead man walking, just working their arses off. But this plays into the brewery's skull symbol and zombie artwork, and the first beer that these guys produced was the Dirty Pale Ale, and it was released back in 2018. Now, the first head brewer of Dead Man Brewery was Jason Lee. Jason studied chemical engineering at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and apparently during this course he took a trip to a brewery in mainland China, and it was this that inspired him to become a brewer. So when he got home, he googled beer in Hong Kong, and Moonzen appeared, and so he joined them as a brewing intern in the summer of 2017. Later he went on to work for Young Master, where he started on the packaging line, and he worked his way way up to become the senior brewer. But he also started a brand called OCBD Beer in 2020 with his friend Chung Ka-ming, and then he joined Deadman as their head brewer in July of 2020, and he stayed with them until September of 2024 when he moved to England to brew for Curious Brewery in Ashford in Kent in the southeast. But Deadman Brewery operate a 500 litre Chinese brew kit, and they're currently brewing around 6,000 litres per month, which translates into the region of 70,000 litres of beer per year. The beers were originally released in bottles, but they switched the majority of their stuff to cans in 2020 after purchasing an American canning line, and apparently they're planning to open their own bar at some point in the fairly near future. But over the years they've continued to develop new recipes and expand the brewery's fermentation capacity and build up their sales. The main man in that regard is Ashwan Prabhu, who everyone knows as Deadman Ash. He of course featured in my Out and About video. But the Deadman artwork is apparently the brainchild of Jerry, and then the brewery workers get together and have a few beers to brainstorm the name of any new release that they do, and the final sketch that Jerry makes is then passed on to a professional ghost artist who adds the colours and finishes the idea before it's put on a label and the beers are released. But as of May 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, Deadman have produced about 75 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I said to you, they've done a wide variety of different styles. They've got the Pilsners, they've got the West Coast IPAs, they've got a few hazies and things like that as well, stouts, and these guys are always willing to have a go at different things. But yeah, this one is from a 3-part release of Bretted beers that they did a couple of months ago. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the history section of this video. That's everything I can really tell you about Deadman Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a wee look at the artwork and stuff of this one before we taste it. So as you can see, Frank is having a very good time getting pulled by his zombie snails on the sled there. I have to say I really do like the artwork on this one. It is very, very nice. But yeah, you can see on the side here, there it is, Deadman Brewery. This one, the artwork on this one's a little bit more like their old stuff, actually, I would say. When you go into the brewery and see the bottles and things, yeah, this one actually does look a little bit like their older stuff. There you can see the Deadman bottle cap. Once again, I'm not sure it's going to focus on that there, but yeah, this one is a 500ml bottle. Tells you a little bit on the side here. This Brett Honey Orange Sour offers a deliciously zesty profile featuring sweet honey and barnyard earthiness with peppery undertones and a mild oak finish. The sour notes round out the experience, making it both refreshing and intriguing. Try this with a chocolate dessert as simple as a chocolate cake. Interesting. We're going to try the beer raw though, because that's kind of what we're about on Rampant Lion Reviews, rating the beer on its own. But yeah, 6.5% ABV this one, a Bretted sour once again then, or Brett Honey Orange Sour to be precise. So yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. I'm really very, very curious about this one. This is Frank on Sled. So 6.5%, a little bit of smoke on the opening. And there we go, we can have a look at this. We'll just be a bit careful with this one. I'm seeing the carbonation is a little bit more active in this than Scout's Honour was, but it should be. Well, let me just see if I can sugar up the bottom a wee bit. Maybe we'll get a bit more. Ah yeah, there you go. There we go. That should be nice for the moment. So, right, there you are. So, yeah, this one has poured pretty much as you would kind of expect, in all honesty. So you can see that this beer is poured with a lovely kind of finger or so, or just under a finger of frothy, I would say, perfect white head. You can see it's a little bit bubbly on the top of the glass there. You can see it's a little bit more kind of small bubbles further up the head, but then you've got the more kind of big medium-sized bubbles further down on the glass. So you've got this lovely pale golden straw colour actually. So yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking on the side of the glass there, and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. You can see that the head is just faded away to be a nice kind of thin foamy layer at the top, and then yeah, there's a little bit of a thicker ring just around the edge of the glass there. But yeah, lovely pale golden straw colour. I mean, that's kind of to be expected from a Bretty sour, to be honest with you. The camera's moving a little bit. There we go. But yeah, that's to be kind of expected of a Bretted sour, to be honest. Most of the Bretted sours are golden, but yeah, remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And that, you know, those elements, when it comes to sour beers like this, the barrel and the adjuncts and stuff can play a bit of a role. But with this one, you can see a little bit of natural haze to it. I don't think the orange zest in this one will play too much of a role in the colour of the beer. But yeah, it looks very nice, this one. I don't know if it contains like wheat or whatever, but I would guess maybe it does, because the saison that we had definitely had a wee bit of wheat in it. But yeah, anyway, in terms of what you would expect appearance wise from a kind of Bretted sour, this one certainly does look the part, and you can see the head is just fading away to be a thinner, more foamy layer in this one. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, looks very nice. I'm just watching the head there, because there's carbonation coming up right in the middle of the glass, so this is this is quite funny, or it looks pretty cool. But yeah, anyway, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see how we go. I don't think we need to say too much more, or anything more really, about the appearance of this one, so let's have a look at it. Oh yeah, right, really funky beer, this one. You can see we've just restored the head by sugaring it up a wee bit. Quite interesting. But yeah, this is another really very kind of funky beer. It's got everything you would want from a kind of Bretted sour. You've got that sort of woody, bready, funky backbone to it. You can get the orange zest out of this one. You've got a wee bit of green component in there, and you've got some other fruits. So let's just try and break the aroma of this one down a wee bit and describe it for you a bit more in depth. So if you take the aroma in, yeah, if you take the aroma in nice and deeply, you get that lovely, yeah, if you take the aroma in, you get that lovely kind of little bit of fresh white bready bread crust in there. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust in the backbone. I remember we said that about the last one too, but it turned out to be more brown bready. But yeah, fresh white bready bread crust in the backbone. Of course, you've got a little bit of a drier wood, and almost to the point where it gives you a little bit of that sort of vanilla character you might expect of an oak barrel, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, definitely a wee bit of that woody, oaky vanilla kind of character coming out of this beer. Lots of, like, you know, Jacob's cream cracker. I get a hell of a lot of cracker out of this one. And then on top of that, yeah, on top of that, it's yeah, on top of that, you've got some really nice, yeah, on top of that, there's a good little bit of kind of like fresh brown bread, like kind of wholemeal brown bread, but it's not too grainy. Almost, it's actually more like a kind of fluffy brown bread. But yeah, there's a lot of fluffy or white bread in there as well. And I want to say at the back of the nose, there's a little touch of kind of bitiness too, which makes me want to say there's a little bit of wheat in this beer. But yeah, so yeah, a little bit of wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose, but you can smell the smoother white bready wheat further forward. And there are little elements of, you know, you do get a little bit of like Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotch out of this one, and then, you know, a little bit of kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity character as well. So yeah, there's a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuity character in there too, but not too much sweetness really. That's just kind of minimal, to be honest with you. So yeah, again, it's quite, yeah, it's kind of like quite bready, crackery, bread crusty. That's kind of what I'm getting mostly out of the malty side of this beer. Now the yeasty side of things then, at the back of the nose, yeah, the yeasty side of this beer is kind of what you'd expect again from the Bretty saison. Lovely big woody notes in there, Lovely little bit of woodiness, lovely little bit of kind of cracker and things like that as well. But I would say it's a little bit more brown bread. It's a mix of like brown bread, white bread, cracker, and sort of woody character that's coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that everything sort of pieces together in this beer, I think, is really, really nice. Yeah, the yeasty side of this one, it's not unexpected. It is, yeah, just more white bready and crackery and stuff like that. I really do like how all of that just pieces together. So that gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, is that everything we need to say about it? I think so, to be honest with you. Yeah, there's maybe a little bit of like you can smell the orange zest kind of sitting on top of everything else there, so that's definitely there, the kind of oily, orangey, zesty character. I wonder if it's orange peel that they've used in this one. But yeah, the orangey zest kind of sits on top of that, and the other thing is there's a little touch of an almost kind of peppery note to this beer as well. But quite interesting, I have to say. So this one does contain hops, and this is something that's always interesting to talk about when it comes to more like sour beers, wild ales and stuff like this. So whenever it comes to sour beer breweries, it's always interesting to ask them a little bit about their hopping mentality, because if you go to the classic Belgian sour beers, you know, the Lambics, the Flanders Reds and things, what they used to do with those is that they would add older hops into the beer that had lost a wee bit of their alpha acid potency, because they didn't want the hoppy bitterness to detract from the sour side of the beer. When it comes to modern sour beer breweries, some breweries will argue that adding the hops gives you a little bit of a depth of flavour. Again, valid argument. When it comes to the smoothie sours though, a lot of breweries will argue that when you add fruit into the beer as an adjunct, it's going to suppress your green component anyway, so why bother adding the hops, right? That is, that is a very valid argument too. So it really just kind of depends exactly what you want to do. The hops will give you a bit of a depth of flavour, but adding fruits and things into the beers are going to, is going to suppress them a little bit. So yeah, it's always interesting to ask a sour beer brewery what they want to do, or what they actually do with their hopping, or what their hopping mentality is, I think is the way I want to say it. Come on brain, wakey wakey. But yeah, in terms of this one, the green component is most definitely there, and it tells you on the bottle there are hops in here. So yeah, there's definitely a little touch of, there's a little slight earthiness to it, a wee bit of a herbal character too, but for the most part, the green component from your hops in this beer is very floral, and it's, you know, very bright and zesty and grassy too, which is in keeping with the, it is very in keeping with the kind of orangey, zesty nature of the beer. Yeah, so I do like that about this one. This one's, it's really quite nicely balanced in a way. Yeah, I do like how that goes together actually. But yeah, where do we start with the fruity side of things for this one then? So yeah, with this beer, there is obviously a little bit of fruit coming out of the hops, and then you've got the orange zest in there. The orange zest kind of sits on top of everything else, so you can smell that lovely juicy orange in there. But I get a little bit of a lemony, like almost lemony, maybe even lemon limey kind of character out of this one. There's some softer like dry apricots in there as well, and you know, a wee touch of like fresh green apple. I often get like fresh green apple from Brettanomyces actually. So yeah, green apple, a little bit of a lemon limey character, some dry apricots, maybe a wee bit of like sultana or something like that as well. But of course the orangey zest is the thing that's kind of jumping out of this beer at you. Yeah, the other thing I would say about this one is that, you know, it's you know, they're saying it's got honey in it, but actually I think the honey takes a bit of a back seat to everything else. So I think we'll get more of that in the flavour than we will in the aroma. There's just a little touch of like biscuity sweetness to this one for me in the aroma, I would say. But yeah, a really nice smelling beer, this one. As I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But I think it is about time we have a taste of this and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Francon Sled, a 6.5% Bretted Honey Orange Sour from the wonderful Deadman Brewery in Sampo Kong, Kowloon here in Hong Kong. Let's get stuck in. Sláinte, skål, cheers. again, very, very nice beer. Carbonation's a little bit active in this one, I would say that, but we saw that when we opened it up. But yeah, I will say that about it. It's very fresh and actually quite crisp and refreshing, this one. This is a really nice, this would be a really nice summer beer, actually. And we're getting into summer now, with it being May, of course. But yeah, I like this. It's a little bit drier into its aftertaste, but I think it's drier into the aftertaste, but all the flavours, you know, the Brettanomyces, the bread, and the orangey characters really come out of this one very, very nicely. So yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I mean, where do we start with this one? Yeah, as I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. I can see why this one was quite as popular as it is. I'm just wanting to try and get the rest of it in the glass, because say with these ones you tend to get a bit of sedimentation with them, and that way you can see all the flavour. So I think we're going to fill this one to the brim and do the tasting from there. So there we go. Yeah, just a little bit of sediment left on the bottom then. So now you can see that it's got just that little bit hazier as well. So quite successful with that pour aftertaste. So let's work it from here. Let's go to the middle third of our palate then. Right, that is good. Right, so the first thing with this beer, when you take it in, you will get a little bit of a kind of attack on the kind of front of your palate there, which I think is really quite enjoyable actually. It's quite welcoming almost. But if you go to the middle third of your palate then, the backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely fresh white bready bread crust in there. That of course is forming the backbone of your beer. So lovely fresh white bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward on this one, you do get that little bit of woodiness out of the beer. So it's got a little touch of a kind of oaky vanilla sort of thing going on. So and the oaky vanilla notes kind of come out a wee bit more into the aftertaste. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust, a little bit of an oaky note there with the wee tiny touch of vanilla to it. Then you get a lot of Jacob's cream cracker coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely Jacob's cream cracker to this beer. Then above that you get a layer of a more kind of wholemeal brown bready character coming out of the beer. So yeah, wholemeal brown bready character in there. And it's quite a thin layer, like it's quite a dry layer as well, I would say. And then on top of that, fluffier. Yeah, there's a fluffier white bready note to this beer too. The white bread actually, does it give you a wee bit of dryness? Yeah, you've got a little bit of like, yeah, fluffy kind of, there's absolutely a little bit of that kind of fluffy, yeah, that white bready dryness in there, which I really quite like. So yeah, you can feel that bit of wholemeal brown bread, fluffier white bready dryness in there. Then on top of that, I think there is a little bit of wheat to this one, because you can feel a slightly denser white bready character in there. But at the same time, the mouthfeel of this one isn't too heavy, and the wheat's going to give you a lot of body, so I'm a bit unsure. But yeah, and there's not too much bitiness at the back of the palate, but there is a slightly denser white bready character sitting on top of the fluffier white bread, and you can feel it smoother further forward and just a little bit drier further back. Remember, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. But yeah, on top of the white bready layer, you've got a sort of circle in the middle of your palate there. In the dead centre, it's maybe a little bit kind of like fudgy, and then yeah, surrounding that you get more of the honey flavours. The honey wasn't too apparent in the aroma, I would say, but yeah, you can feel it's a very soft honey flavour, and it's just kind of surrounded. Yeah, it's kind of surrounded a little bit by a more McVitie's Digestive biscuity sort of thing. So yeah, the way that that goes together in this one I think is nice. Yeah, you get that little bit of Jacob's cream cracker to it as well, which you're just kind of sitting underneath. You get a wee bit of that into the aftertaste, and then the sweeter side of the McVitie's Digestive biscuit too. But I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of your palate. It's actually quite straightforward in a way, but it's just really quite nice. So let's go to the back third of your palate then. As I often say, the middle third and the back third of your palate are going to show you similar flavours, but just at different intensities. But yeah, the border region between back and middle third, between middle and back third of your palate, you get that little bit of bready build up in there once again. There's kind of brown bready character in the bottom, then you've got the white bready character on top of that, and then there's a wee bit of a more like denser white bread or whatever, maybe wheaty white bready character on top of that. As I say, I'd be curious to know if there is wheat in this one, but something tells me maybe not. But yeah, the backbone of the back third of your palate is the kind of white bready bread crust, which feels a little bit more brown, like brown bready bread crust almost. It's just that little bit drier. You've got some Jacob's cream cracker on top of that, the brown bready character kind of comes out on top of that, and that layer is a little bit lighter, taller, more airy. Above that you've got the white bready character in there too, which is a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy as well, which I really like. And then yeah, the more dense wheaty character, on top of that is just, yeah, it's actually still quite smooth, but just a wee touch of kind of bitiness to it. And then of course you've got all the yeasty notes coming out of the beer, and that's where you should kind of focus when it comes to like a breaded sour, if you like. This beer really has, it's got very, very nice balance to it. I can see why it won that silver award. But yeah, with the yeasty side of things, so on top of that back third of your palate, at its core, it's got this more kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of character to it. So yeah, wholemeal, brown bready character in there. It's kind of surrounded a little bit by, yeah, it's sort of surrounded a little bit by more of a kind of softer, yeah, so there's the more dense wholemeal brown bready character there. It's surrounded by like a slightly softer wholemeal brown bread, but that wholemeal brown bread's got like cracker and woody elements to it, and maybe just a little touch of a spicy character. Then the very edge of it, it's got a little bit more of a, yeah, around the very edge of it, it's maybe got a little bit more of a white bread and soft white bread crusty character to it. So yeah, the yeasty character in this one goes together really quite nicely. And then you get a wee bit just kind of peppery character into the aftertaste too, but again, it's very, very mild in a sense. So definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, I like that about this one. The malty and yeasty side of things in this beer is really quite nice. So yeah, it just gives you that wee bit of dryness and stuff into the aftertaste too. So malty and yeasty side of this one gets a big thumbs up from me. I like the kind of woody character really pushes its way out of this beer further on as well. But let's go to the hoppy side of things then. So back corners of your palate, you've got a lovely little bit of smooth kind of earthiness in there. It actually makes me wonder, German noble hop for a beer like this. Mandarina Bavaria would probably be the one to use, actually, or what's the other one? Is it Sapphire that has that's the lower alpha acid one that has a wee bit of orangey character to it. Something German and noble about the hoppy side of this beer. But yeah, a little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a kind of woody herbally note, like I say. Then as you push further forward from that, it's got some nice kind of floral aromaticity and some grassy notes around the front curve of your tongue there. And it's got a wee bit of zestiness from the grassy character too, but you know, in terms of bitterness and things, it's definitely not going to blow the head off you, that's for sure. But yeah, let's have a wee look at the, yeah, let's have a little look at the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So yeah, fruity side of the beer for me It's, or well, the front third of your palate, I should say. The border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, a little bit of bready build up. The brown bread in there, the white bread, then the more dense, kind of slightly wheaty character. The base of the front third of your palate, it's got a little bit of, yeah, the fresh white bready bread crust in there. The cracker, wholemeal bread, the white bread, then the more dense white bread, and then of course, yeah, it's all about the fruity notes. You get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters rolled away out of the beer. But you've also got the orange zest in here, and for me, it's kind of like the orange zest sort of sits on top of that border region between middle and front third of your palate. So that's, yeah, that's kind of worth keeping in mind here. Yeah, I like the way that this one, I do like the way that this all goes together. But in terms of the oily bubble with the fruits, for me, it's kind of similar to what we were picking up in the aroma, to be honest. So yeah, like further back you get a little bit of kind of sultana. Yeah, further back you get a little bit of a sultana note out of this one, so you get that dry kind of white green grapey note. Then yeah, as you move further forward, you've got a little bit of apricot-y character coming out of it. Yeah, so sultana, apricot, and then yeah, as you move further forward into the front half of that front third of your palate, you've got a little bit more of yeah, you've got a little bit more of kind of fresh green apple, sort of lemony limey kind of character coming out of it. So yeah, I like that about this one. I do like the way that kind of pieces together. So yeah, I think it's yeah. I think in that front half of the front of your palate, there's yeah a little bit of like fresh green apple and just a wee touch of a kind of lemony limey note. But yeah, sultana, dry apricot, fresh green apple, and then yeah, a wee touch of a lemon limey character. And the orange zest kind of sits behind. Pardon me, all of that actually. But it does come out again, the little bit of zestiness, it does kind of sort of spread over the top of those fruity notes into the aftertaste, which is really interesting. So yeah, the way that that goes together I think is really nice. Yeah, I like that with this beer for sure. But yeah, this one is really nice, very nice kind of summer beer this. So I think it'd be a shame if Deadman didn't do this again. I think this was one of the last things that Jason brewed before he moved over to England. But yeah, this one I think, very nice sort of summer beer, this one. So I do hope that Deadman brew this one again. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour. So let's round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, in the wider range of things, I think it's, you know, it's kind of mid-bodied, but for a sour, it's one of the less oily ones, one of the slightly kind of drier ones, I would say. So I'd maybe put this at bottom end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is a wee bit active in this one, I would say, so it does have a little bit of almost crispness to it. It's not overly, it's not like overbearing, but it does have a wee bit of a prickle to it for sure, and that helps give the beer that little bit of dryness. The malt base, as we said, a little bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, and then you've got a slight dry sweetness on top. Your IBU in this one, I think, is like about 10 IBUs at the absolute most, something like that. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. And as we said, the beer's got a little bit of kind of zestiness to it. It's not madly sour, and it's not, yeah, it's not even, I don't find it that sour, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's got a lovely little bit of sour character to it, but not enough to blow the head off you. Then yeah, you've just got a little bit of fruitiness out of it, a little bit of oily character, and yeah, you have that lot of that juicy orange zest in there. Really, really nice beer, this one, and I certainly have enjoyed having a look at this one, and I can see why it won an award. But very good summer beer, so I'll need to tell that to Ash and recommend that they do this one again in the summer. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. This one was the Frank on Sled, a honey bretted orange sour from, or Brett Honey Orange Sour, I think they're calling it, from Deadman Brewery in Sanpo Kong in Kowloon here in Hong Kong. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Dead Man Brewery as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out Dead Man Brewery's social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very soon. Ciao just now.